The KVK of the year is finally here, and not only does it have the matchup everyone was looking forward to, 1960 versus 2377, but it also has the legendary kingdoms of 1093 and 1365, as well as some solid Imperium kingdoms such as 1606 and 2975. We're starting off the video with my kingdom, 1960. 1960 is just coming from a KVK against 2489. In that KVK, it was a 2v2 where 2489 was allied with 1846 and 1262. 1960 was allied with 1316 and 1188. Ultimately, we were able to win that KVK and are now going into this new KVK with a pretty decent migration. One thing I will say about 1960 is that we had, I think, a 2 to 3 day off season. As soon as we got out of KVK, we entered this pop. However, I still think 1960 will be performing really well. 60GT, 1960's main alliance, currently has 21.7 billion power as of the recording of this video. The 1960 domain is bringing in 52.1 billion power, as well as 4 billion kill points and 16.2 billion deads. Some notable community members and players that you might know in 1960, of course, C. Will, the Rise of Kingdoms information machine, as well as the king of 1960, Al-Haytham, gaining 11 billion last KVK against 2489. You also have Addy, one of the mega whales in 1960 that just swarms everything and is always in that top 10, top 20 of KP gained in a KVK. We have Prodiga, who spent 27 million gems last pre-KVK. Other content creators and friends of the channel like Matt Achilles, Ihara, Cortex, and of course my boy Breadline. So just a ton of players in 1960. Kingdom 2377 has been on the come up for quite some time now. In fact, some people speculate that they're the second best, if not the best kingdom in the game. Currently, their main alliance GV77 has 24.2 billion power, and interestingly enough, 2377 actually has 2 main members for one alliance, so they actually have some main accounts that rotate in and out from AO77, which is currently at 6.1 billion power. 2377's last KVK was a dominant win against 1365, another kingdom in this KVK. In that King of All Britain KVK, they're allied with 2293, and they're able to push out 1365 out of Kingsland within a day. 2377's total domain power is 51 billion power, with 3.1 trillion KP and 12.2 billion deads. Some notable players are of course Mr. Hope and Wildline, with a whopping 2 billion power each. And as for content creators, they have the biggest content creator in the game, Chiskel, that just recently migrated after the last KVK. Overall, 2377 is a super strong and well-rounded kingdom and should be fun to fight against. Kingdom 1093 has consistently been one of the top kingdoms throughout Rise of Kingdoms history. In fact, not too long ago, they were seen as the strongest kingdom in the game. That was until recently when they downsized from 4 alliances to 3 and then 3 alliances down to 2. Now in this KVK, with their new 2 alliance kingdom, they're looking to prove to the Rise of Kingdoms community and to themselves that they are still one of the strongest kingdoms in the game. 1093 might be the last kingdom with 2 main alliances. They have 93T Scuffed Tigers at 13.7 billion power, and 93X at 11.9 billion power. Overall, 1093 have 55.7 billion power, 3.5 trillion kill points, and 16.1 billion deads. Some notable players from 1093 are of course their 2 leaders, Nico of 93X and Silent of 93T. And as for content creators, Dirty Dan, fellow Osiris League caster, has also recently migrated to 1093. Overall, 1093 should be one of the strongest kingdoms in this map, with 2 main alliances, swarming with their numbers, and of course the war strategy and coordination, which is still one of the best in the game. 1365 was on the receiving end of 2377 in their last KVK. A historic kingdom in their own right, and at their peak the best kingdom in the game, has also struggled recently as the meta in Rise of Kingdoms turns into 1 alliance kingdoms. In their last KVK against 2377, they were a 2 alliance kingdom, and in this past off-season have consolidated these 2 alliances into 1 main alliance in JST. JST having 19.3 billion power, making them a very strong alliance in this KVK. They have the most power at 64 billion power, 3 trillion KP, and 18.2 billion deads. Some notable players in 1365 is of course Save, the leader of 1365, Baba, the original whale at 1.1 billion power, and as for content creators, they have Furious, the T4 running killing machine, and one of the original content creators of Rise of Kingdoms that came back into the game recently, Dragothian. Overall, this will be 1365's first KVK as a One Alliance Kingdom, and I'm really looking forward to see how they do and how they've recovered since their last KVK. 1606 has always been a low, mid-tier Imperium Kingdom for quite some time, and has started picking up steam as of recently. They won their most recent KVK against 1981 and 2218, and have had solid migration after solid migration over and over again, making them one of the top KDs in the game. Currently, their alliance power, IN, is at 16.8 billion power, and the kingdom's total power is 40.9 billion power, 2 trillion KP, and 9.5 billion deads. Some notable players are of course Akina, who we had on the Zero podcast and is the leader of 1606. There's also Ritz, a friend of the channel, and also part of the leadership group in 1606. Fa is also in 1606 with an account. And finally, a familiar face from 2268, the main garrison lead there, Gigi, who's trying to hide in 1606 and not be a garrison, but knowing her, she'll probably garrison anyways. Overall, 1606 is going to be a great contributor in this KVK, and it'll be really interesting to see how they stack up against the other 4 kingdoms that we just talked about. 2975 I'm a little bit personally familiar with because they beat up 2268 in the last KVK there. Notable player there is of course Arvix, but overall 2975 should be a very strong campmate to go with 1606. Finally, for the last camp, we have 3 A seeds. 1473, who's a 12.2 billion power alliance, 1814, which is a 10.5 billion power alliance, and finally 2941, which is a 13.7 billion power alliance. The last 3 kingdoms that we just brought up are 3 A seeds that are in the same camp, so it'll be really interesting to see how they perform this KVK. Alright, that is it for the video to introduce all of the kingdoms in this mega KVK. I'm actually going to be going live on an emergency episode of the Zeroed podcast with Redline, where we are going to be speculating the matchmaking and allies of this KVK. So if you guys are interested, the link to that stream will be in the description as well as the comments, and that stream will be going live a couple hours after that this video goes live. And I'll catch you guys there. Peace!